What's up, everyone? Today we're gonna take a look at, in my opinion, the 3 things that might kill Diablo unless changed. This is not going to be like everything wrong with Diablo 4 kind of video, cause everyone already did that. We already know all of the issues, like the scaling sucks, this trashy mobile UI looks like shit, the dungeons are boring and repetitive and just long corridors leading to oh go get the box, oh put the box in here, oh wait there's another box, go get the box. Like, it's really fucking boring, right? Everybody knows this. It's not gonna be that kind of video. Just for context, I'm a huge Diablo fan. I've been playing Diablo for over 2 decades at this point. Didn't really play a lot of Diablo 1 because I was pretty young at the time and the game was fucking scary, dude. I did end up playing Diablo 1 a little bit, like way after Diablo 2 was already released, when I was a bit older. I never finished it. I hear it's a really good game. I do believe it's a really good game because it spawned Diablo 2, which was the game I ended up maining for many years. I freaking love Diablo 2. And then I obviously ended up playing Path of Exile. I have over 2,000 hours on this Steam account on Path of Exile. But anyway, let's not waste any time. Let's just dive straight into it. I had a hard time figuring out in which order I'm gonna do these in. I only know which one I'm gonna end on, so we're gonna start with problem number 1, which is the skills. Where are they? Like, what's the deal? How did we go from this to this, and we ended up with this? Why are we going backwards? How are we going backwards? Like, I know the game is being designed for console, all-inclusive. Your buddy who never touched a video game has to be able to couch co-op with you because he'll feel left out if he can't. And we only have like 6 skills to work with. Whatever. So for the first and the second beta, I ended up trying... I didn't try all of the classes, but I did end up max leveling 2 of the classes. For the first beta, I started out with the rogue. I really wanted to play a melee rogue because in the early trailers, the melee rogue looked really cool. So that's what I wanted to play, right? I wanted to keep myself from playing the ranger rogue because just looking at the skills, because the first thing I did was I halted my leveling experience just to read through all of the skills, look what's available later. I'm that kind of guy. That's why I fucking love Path of Exile, right? I just want to just read everything, know what's available, what's gonna be the best, make a build that works really well, right? So I spent some time doing that, and at first I was like, oh shit, look at this tree, right? Look how much it is. But you quickly realize that's not the case. There's not that much there. Where is everything? First few levels, you obviously start out with the generic left-click generator pew-pews. None of them actually really matter, except the necromancers. We'll get there. They're all pretty bad. With the runes, some of them can spread some status ailments, like vulnerable, and some other statuses like immobilize and slow and whatever, but they don't matter, right? So you pick one useless left click for free ability, you move down the tree, get to the core abilities, right? That's what they're even called, core. This is what you're gonna spend most of your time doing. This is your resource spenders. And lo and behold, we had 5 to choose from in this cluster. That's good, right? That's 1 more than the resource builder cluster. So again, I really wanted to play a melee rogue, so for me, I only really had 2 options. I like the idea that one class can go either melee or ranged, so that's pretty cool. But I did end up playing a ranger. After a while, I kind of got shoehorned into it thanks to the legendaries that I got. I never really got a legendary for the melee rogue, even though I leveled as one. But starting out, the melee rogue abilities, pretty weak. Flurry, very fast hitting attack that seems to scale really well with crit and overpower, because if the attack decides to crit or overpower, the entirety of the attack seems to crit and overpower, so you can deal a ton of damage or you can deal no damage. And the area on this one is really small, Like, you're not gonna clear trash mobs with this. This is like a boss killer, right? The other one was actually pretty cool, twisting blades or whatever, I can't remember, but you strike the target, dealing massive single target damage. After 1.5 seconds, the dagger returns to you, dealing damage in a line between you and the initial target. So I ended up, when I got to the movement cluster, I ended up picking dash. Shadow Strike seems very good too, very PvP-ish ability. Sure, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. So you strike a target and you dash through a pack of monsters or to the next elite even, and the dagger comes back and swing, just everything dies. Except it's in a line, so it's not gonna be like a Sorcerer's Blizzard or anything. So the melee rogue didn't really have a lot of clear speed until you got the shadow enhance, and but yeah, it was all very bare bones. And same with the ranger. When I tested it, it was like you had pretty much an identical ability to flurry, except for a bow version. It shot in like a little cone in front of you, really boring. Just tested it out briefly, didn't care. I tested the other one, it's just the same ability, except it's in a straight line instead of a cone in front of you. Really fucking boring. Ended up trying penetrating shot or power shot or whatever it's called. Really reminded me of one of the skills from Sharpshooter in Lost Ark, which I played. So I ended up playing with penetrating shot or power shot or whatever. Generic ranger gameplay, nothing special. For the second beta, I ended up playing the Necromancer. Same story, 4 generic builder abilities, except one of them seemed way more overpowered than the other ones. Bone Splinters can hit the same target with the same cast if you're close enough, and one of the runes had like a 20% chance to apply vulnerable per projectile, so it's just de facto better than anything else basically. So it seems like it doesn't matter which necro build you're going, you're always going to pick Bone Splinters either way, which is really boring. And then same story there, you move down the tree, you get to the core skills. There are some interesting ones, some shitty ones, just like all the other classes. But then we get to the creme de la creme, right? The curse cluster. And for the Necromancer, I didn't really stay and read ahead what I'm going to unlock, because it was my second character. I had already done it once. I'm gonna do it on release, right? So I kind of just power leveled the Necromancer. So when I dinged and got to the curse cluster and realized, oh shit, this is the curse cluster, and I just looked at it, I was like, God damn, did we get cucked on the curse cluster. Holy shit, dude. Like, again, take a look at the curse tree from Diablo 2, and then you compare it to the one in Diablo 4. I know I shouldn't compare these games. It's not really Diablo anymore. It's not even really Blizzard anymore at this point, right? So, but I can't help. I mean, the game carries my favorite IP's name. It's Diablo 4, right? How can I not look at the earlier titles and be like, okay, so they gave up on all of these great ideas that made Diablo 2 so good that people play it to this day. It's like over 20 years old at this point or something. I don't know exactly. But this version of the Necromancer gets 2 curses to use. 2. That's the entire cluster. 2 curses and a bunch of passives. That's all you get on that cluster. So for the first curse, you get Decrepify, which is and was a very good curse, even in Diablo 2. Slowing enemies, movement and attack speed, very strong. And with the rune to reduce the damage they deal, I think, that's gonna be really strong end game, I guess, because slowing and damage reduction is probably gonna be a must if the content gets really freaking hard. But then, for the other curse, they had this balls, they had this massive stones to just take Iron Maiden and put it in the game. Like, let's just use Iron Maiden. And you're probably wondering, what's so special about Iron Maiden? If you ever played Diablo 2, back in the day, or still, Diablo Resurrected, doesn't matter, the name Iron Maiden should give you PTSD, right? Unless you never played a melee character, I suppose. But if you did, back in Diablo 2, and you were like in the Chaos Sanctuary Nightmare or something, or hell, I can't remember, and you were like a whirlwind barbarian going through a pack of monsters like a freaking lawnmower, and you got Iron Maiden cast on you, you were inspecting the floor in less than a second. Iron Maiden is so freaking strong in Diablo 2. But in this game, I couldn't even really tell if the damage reflect part of it ever even happened. Obviously it can't be too strong, like it kinda was in Diablo 2, but I ended up using it for... I made it free with a rune, and then the next rune granted you spirit or whatever for each target that you curse, so I only used it for resource generation for my bone spear. But the damage return part of it, it might as well not even have been there. So, you know, the skill tree and like how many of the skills seem so weirdly tuned, many of the passives seems very weirdly tuned. It's very easy to use, it looks nice, it works well for the casuals, it's what it seems to be made for, not gonna lie. It seems to be made for the console peasants who have to play with a controller. They can only use 6 buttons apparently, so we can only have 6 skills. You could have unlimited skills bound in Diablo 2. You could have 30 skills if you wanted. I've even seen, like, there seems to be a problem. I've seen some people just use left click as a move, so they technically only have 5 abilities. I don't do that because with the space ability, and most classes have a movement ability, it does happen sometimes, but I don't see it as a huge problem, so I'd rather just have the generic spender on the left click than bind it to move only. But yeah, there's just not enough to play with. Like, every class gets a generic resource builder that doesn't matter. The core skill seems pretty weak and forgettable, especially for the druid. They're all kind of terrible. And like, I'm just imagining playing my melee rogue for like the foreseeable future on launch, using twisting blades, dashing through shit, killing it on the way, and that's like your only offensive options because your left clicks doesn't do any damage, and all of the other skills are just passive burst enablers. Like, how long is that gonna be fun for? Like, am I gonna put hundreds and hundreds of hours into Diablo 4 just basically using one ability and a dash and then passives that enable my bursts? Like, that doesn't seem fun. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. The game looks really good and the combat is really good. Everything just flows together real nicely, except for me personally, I don't know if I play too much Path of Exile. Maybe I'm ruined in the brain. I need like spreadsheets and shit to have fun, but I don't know, just clicking most of the abilities that I've tried so far it's just not that fun. Granted, I didn't really try out the sorceress because spoiler alert, I don't need to play a sorceress to know what a sorceress does. It's pretty standard. The sorceress is the de facto league starter in Diablo 2. I know Frozen Orb is a thing, I know Hydra is a thing, like, I can guess 9 out of 10 of the sorceress abilities, right? So, but from watching other people, sorceress seems like a good designed class, right? Many of the skills seem viable, effective, and fun. And then the enchantment system on top of that, being able to swap out which skill you have enchanted in the middle of combat if you want to, like picking whatever suits for the situation. It seems really cool. It seems like there's a lot of build differential potential there. Does that make sense? Yeah. I just feel like the skill system across the board, except for the sorceress, which seems pretty cool, as I said, pretty fun. The skill system across the board seems pretty weak. Where is everything? And like, yeah, I know I can't really criticize it because one, it's beta, but I have a hard time seeing how that they're gonna add a bunch of new, good, different skills for release. And like, the skills are less customizable than Diablo 3, which was less customizable than Diablo 2. It's like, I don't know, man. Again, there's just, for me, it's just, there's just not enough to play with. I don't know. Can the Paragon system save it? We haven't seen that one yet. Maybe. I have a really hard time seeing that the Paragon system isn't gonna be Like, just another talent tree that gives, oh, plus percent fire damage here, plus percent movement skill damage here, plus percent health here, resistances here, and like 10% extra damage for 5 seconds after you use a movement skill, and like just generic number increases, right? The Paragon board isn't really gonna be transformative to your gameplay, which in my opinion the game really needs because the skill system is so weak. And I know I haven't really mentioned legendary items, which is gonna do the transformation for us, right? That's the idea. So I guess it's a really good time to segue into problem number 2. Items and itemization. And speaking of legendary items, apparently we seem to be living in a world where level scaling is a thing. Because we all know games these days need to be designed so everybody has a chance. The game has to be all inclusive to everyone. Everyone has to be able to win and be able to join in anywhere. The game can't be too hard for anyone. I guess people just can't take the ego hit of something being too hard, and you have to like go back to an earlier area and farm experience and or items. Like, it's okay to be too weak to do something, right? Or is it just me? Is that not okay these days? But yeah, okay, items. So when I first started out playing Diablo 4, I got a very weird feeling. Like, I've been playing Diablo 2 Resurrected recently, which has been amazing. It's been a breath of fresh air. I freaking love Diablo 2. I've been playing Diablo 2 for fucking 2 decades at this point, I guess. So when you first start out in Diablo 2 and you go out into the Blood Moor and you start killing monsters, what are you gonna find? You're gonna find the base of the base, the crappiest of crap, right? You're gonna find caps, you're gonna find sashes, regular boots, quilted armor, short sword, and then all of these things, these are normal rarity things, I guess. And they can become exceptional and elite as you move up through to Nightmare and Hell, as the game gets harder, you know. And these items can be set and unique items, and they're all unique. Like a unique cap is the unique cap, and a unique quilted armor is the unique quilted armor, and a unique shako is the shako, you know. So when you start playing Diablo 4 and items start dropping, you're quickly gonna realize that they're just items with item power. It's not item level, by the way. I promise, it's not item level, it's item power. And in a scaling world where everything just scales up with you, you're just gonna keep finding items. And they can be rare, and they can be legendary. They look differently, sure, but you don't really care, right? It's just items. If it's a white item, you don't even care. If it's a blue item, you don't even care. And none of these items, except for weapons, I guess, have any implicits at all. Like, if I remember correctly, the weapons like swords have a little bit of extra crit damage, and scythes have life on kill for some reason, and like, I don't even remember the rest because I didn't care. Because everything you look at is the item power, right? If the green arrow says plus percent, you just equip it, right? The only exception being belts and boots, because these items drop with, belts could drop with 40% of your health potion gained as barrier when you drink a potion, which is cool. And the boots could drop with cooldown reduction to your space ability, faster movement speed after your space, or 1 additional space. And this is like, okay, nice, cool. Every item should have some form of this. Like, the rings have always have resistances. The neck also has resistances, I think. But whatever, sooner or later you're gonna find your first legendary item, right? And it's gonna have a legendary power. Is it good for your build? Maybe. Is it terrible for your build? Maybe. It's all RNG. And the issue I have with this is, like, when you find a legendary item, it's just that. You're finding a legendary item. You're finding a legendary affix, basically. You don't care what kind of item it is. You don't care what implicit it has, because it probably doesn't even have an implicit. You just hope it's a good legendary power. And if it has a good legendary power, you better just cross your fingers and hope it has some good stats for your class, because you can't really craft items in this game. they use the D3 system where you can re-roll one stat, which is at least something, right? So that's good. But in the end, if you're a Whirlwind Barbarian, you're just gonna equip all of the legendary items that does something with Whirlwind. So effectively, it just turns into a Diablo 3 set. And I don't want D4 to be Diablo 3 all over again. Because guess what? Diablo 3 ended up being terrible. And that's why nobody plays it these days. I heard the last league was pretty good, so kudos to someone on the Blizzard team. But Diablo 3 failed for a fucking reason, okay? I'm not saying the items is the reason Diablo 3 failed. Diablo 3 had a lot of other issues as well, but... So let's say you're level 50 and you find a pair of gloves or boots or whatever, and it has... Let's say you find the most perfect item. It has your legendary power for the skill that you're using, it has crit if you want crit, it has main stat, it has everything that you want, right? But give it 10 levels and this item is gonna be useless. Because again, in a world with level scaling, everything is just gonna keep... You just keep climbing up the endless ladder. You just keep climbing and climbing and you just need better stuff. So in the end, you're just gonna need to find the same pair of gloves again at a higher level. Which is exactly what you did in Diablo 3. Let's take gloves for example. Like, you got your set gloves for the set that you want for your class in Diablo 3. You pray to RNGesus that it has crit chance, crit damage, cooldown reduction, or attack speed depending on your build, and your main stat. And then you just, bam, there's my baseline, these are my gloves. Now I just need the same gloves, but better. Like, what was it even called? Hellforged? I can't remember, but you're never gonna equip a new pair of gloves. You just need the same gloves, but better. Obviously we're talking endgame here, like if you find a perfect pair of gloves at level 30, at level 40 they're gonna be useless anyway, so you're just gonna fucking disenchant them or whatever. But again, I'm being very nitpicky here. It's the beta. It's a beta for a reason. We're just testing it, and we haven't even gotten to see many of the unique items. Because, spoiler alert, there's an upgrade to the legendary items as well. We have unique items. And apparently they're gonna be really build defining, so that's good. And I really hope they live up to their name, because they're called unique items. I really hope they're gonna be unique, right? I've seen screenshots of a few of them and they interact with your abilities and even change them, which is what I was asking for with the skill tree in the beginning anyway, so that's perfect, that's really good. But is it just gonna turn into Legendary 2.0? Are you just gonna farm that one unique with your legendary affix on it, with your perfect stats on it? Because again, the Diablo 3 syndrome where every item is just a stat stick and you need a better version of it, a better version of it, a better version of it, until you can't get a better version of it, and then that's your build. Because like for me, coming from Diablo 2 and Path of Exile and Last Epoch and all of these other games, like unique items are just that, they are unique items. For sure there are tons of shitty ones, both in Diablo 2 and Path of Exile, but that's kind of the beauty of it, right? There needs to be really fucking terrible items for the really good items to be really good. Everything can't be good except some things are better than good, because then there's no value to anything. Like there are tons and tons and tons of worthless unique items in both Diablo and Path of Exile, but many of them are viable for some builds. Like, there's a ton of unique items in Path of Exile, for example, that they cost nothing to buy. They're basically free. You find them all the time. But some builds really like these items, and you can corrupt them for a perfect implicit for your build, and then they become super expensive instead. And like that's what creates these chase items, right? There needs to be these super fucking rare unique items that are so good for so many of the builds, so many of the classes. Think back to classic WoW, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King to an extent, Diablo 2, Path of Exile. All of these games have these items that are like, so fucking good, right? That they become essentially legendary. Everybody knows these items. Like, the Shaco, Arachnid Mesh, Headhunter, Calm's Heart. Like, there's an endless supply of these recognizable, really good items that people want. Because in my opinion, if an item is called a unique item, it's not supposed to spawn with the same random pool of affixes that any other item drops with. Kinda like in Diablo 3, where the only viable gloves you could ever equip is the crit chance, crit damage, attack speed, cooldown reduction, main stats. It's like, if it rolls with anything else, it's just boom, automatically useless, right? A unique item, in my eyes, are like, this item has these stats on it, and then it rolls within its ranges, so it can be perfectly rolled, or it can be imperfectly rolled, or whatever. That's what creates this scarcity, right? Even the rarest of rare items can be badly rolled. Like, are Diablo 4's unique items gonna drop with these weird-ass random fucking percent damage to close enemies when you're a ranged build, and percent damage to distant enemies when you're a melee build, and like fucking lucky hit chance 2.5%. My generator has 50% lucky hit chance, and this item has 2.5% chance to execute non-elite enemies. Does that become 52.5% execute chance, or is it like, what are these affixes? And with no implicits on the items either, I don't know. I don't know. It makes me worried though. And I'm not saying items shouldn't drop with bad affixes. That's how you create good chase items, want items, right? Like, a yellow item dropped with perfect stats, like, okay, Diablo 3 for example again, back before Reaper of Souls. Could gloves even? Fuck, I can't remember these things. It's been so long, but if you got a pair of gloves, like early game Diablo with crit, cooldown, attack speed, main stat, whatever, like, that was a big find, because that was pretty rare. It was only in Reaper of Souls where everything became so abundant that you were just showered in loot and nothing was special, and you were just looking for the perfect of something that you already had, an upgraded version of the same legendary weapon that you already had, and it needed to spawn with perfect stats on it. So again, I'm just saying, the affixes are very weird. Is it gonna be the same with unique items? Are unique items just gonna drop with the regular random assorted affixes like any other item, so they're not really gonna be unique at all? It's just a legendary item with another name with a stronger effect? I don't know. How useful are rare items even gonna be? Cause like, extracting an aspect from an item and putting it on a rare item, it makes the legendary affix spawn with the minimum roll on the legendary effect. And if the dungeons are gonna be as hard as I'm assuming and hoping late game, you're not gonna go in there with a rare item with a legendary effect that's min rolled. That's not gonna work, right? You need, like, that's what these games are about, right? Min-maxing the end game, kinda. In my eyes, at least. But like, walking into an end game dungeon with like badly optimized gear, maybe if your build is really insane, or if you got really lucky with another legendary item that really boosts your damage or survivability, maybe that's gonna work. But in my eyes, you're gonna need some really good items to make it in the end game. So, well-rolled rare items, will they be want items? Is it gonna be viable to take a really perfectly rolled yellow item, slamming an aspect on it that gets min rolled, which is the worst, by the way? Is that gonna be the way to do it? Is that a want item? Is that a chase item? Like, for example, if you find a perfectly rolled Stygian Vice in Path of Exile, that's a belt, by the way, which its implicit is that it has an abyssal socket, which makes it really good. Are you listening, by the way, Blizzard? Cool implicits on items. Can we get some of that? If you find a perfectly rolled Stygian Vice, you are fucking rich in Path of Exile. Or, let's say you really need a perfectly rolled Stygian Vice to really push the limits of your build. You're gonna pay top dollar for that belt, right? because those things are rare as shit. And speaking of perfectly rolled yellow items that are really expensive to both buy and sell, leads very nicely into my third problem with the game. Actually, it's more like problem 2.5, because 2 and 3 has a lot to do with each other. But the third problem is player trading. What are people going to trade in this game? Is there going to be player trading? Will good rolled yellow items be want items? Because when you craft an aspect on it, it's gonna be badly rolled. Is that gonna be the meta? Or are good rolled yellow items going to be expensive? Are people going to want them? Are people going to buy them? Because you can't sell legendary items because they're soul bound. Oh, I'm sorry, they're account bound. So what is there going to be to trade? Like, people are just gonna be farming and farming and farming and farming and hoping for that perfect legendary item with their perfect legendary affix, with their perfect affixes. And they're gonna stack the same affixes on every item because that's how you play Diablo these days. So what is there to trade? What are people going to trade? And what will be the de facto currency in this game? What's going to be the Chaos Orb, the Divine Orb, the High Rune, the Stone of Jordan? Is it going to be gold? Is gold going... Like, I want to buy this weapon from you for 2 million gold? I'm assuming gold, we're gonna be showered in gold at max level. Like, gold isn't really going to be that big of an issue, right? And if gold becomes the de facto currency, which it makes a lot of sense that gold would be the de facto trading currency, right? But how's that gonna work then? Is there going to be RMT in the game? Are you gonna be able to buy a Blizzard token and sell it for Diablo gold, effectively making the game pay to win? Are you going to be trading the ores and the flowers? Are some of the end game elixirs going to be really insane? Are those going to be... Like, the game is obviously being designed almost more like an MMO than an ARPG, right? So what's going to be the social aspect of that kind of game? For me, it's obviously trading. Trading is what's kept Diablo 2 alive all of these years. Not only that, Diablo 2 is a good game on its own, but trading is what keeps the game floating, right? Even 20 years after release. And same can be said for Path of Exile. Path of Exile is already on its own an insanely good game. It doesn't need trading to stay alive, but it sure fucking helps. Like, being able to log on every day and keep slamming those maps, keep farming, finding and selling the items, amassing the riches that you amass by magic finding. Because guess what? Diablo is about magic finding. Should allow you to buy your chase items, your want items. And you can be like, oh, but the stash tabs in Path of Exile is pay to win. I don't care. You can play solo self-found if that's what you think. Trading is essential in these types of games, especially since this game is being designed as an MMO. Because, like, I can already tell now in the beta, like, there's no player trading, there's no player interaction. Like, you see people in town, if you care enough, you'll maybe inspect them. The only people you're actually gonna talk to is your guildmates. If even that, what do you need a guild for? Really? You're gonna have a Discord for your friends anyway, so, you know, who are you gonna talk to in Diablo 4? Like, I can already see tons of people in the open world. People gather for the events and, oh, the world boss is spawning and, oh, there's an event over here and, oh, everybody should gather over here. But, like, I don't give a shit about the other players and they don't give a shit about me. Because we're all just playing Diablo. We just want our items, right? There's no player interaction anywhere at all. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's what it is, right? The game is already turning into World of Warcraft. Like, you go into a Mythic Plus in WoW, you don't talk to anyone, you're just there to blast everything through to get your loot, and then you leave. It's Raid Finder, basically. You go in there, you let everybody else do the work for you, you get showered in loot, you feel really good for a couple of minutes, and then you go back to town and be like, what now? I don't know, man. The game is being designed as this huge MMO ARPG light thing where the game is about finding items, but the items won't really have any value to other players. And like, if there's not gonna be any player trading, which I'm sure there will be player trading in the game, I sure fucking hope so. The game will be really boring if there isn't any player trading. But again, I can't stop thinking about what's gonna be the currency. What are the chase items gonna be? What are people actually going to trade? And how long is it going to last for? Because Lord knows I can farm gold for days, and that's really fun, I guess. Maybe. Again, what's gonna be the Chaos Orb? What's gonna be the Divine Orb? What's gonna be traded back and forth between players? What are you gonna amass so that you feel stacked, you know? Like, for example, this league in Path of Exile that's just about to be over. Very early in the league, I actually I don't play solo self-found, but I found a headhunter. That's right, baby. That's fucking right. I found a headhunter. I found it from a fucking monster. It dropped on the ground, baby. But whatever. I sold it for 120 divines, like 1 week into the league. I could probably have made more if I waited a bit, but I'm rich as fuck, baby. I can buy basically... There are some items that are crazy fucking expensive, but I can buy basically whatever the fuck I want, because I found one of the rarest items in the game, and I'm rich as fuck. Are we gonna get that feeling in Diablo 4? Are we gonna be able to find an incredibly rare item and sell it to another player for X amounts of herbs, ore, gold, elixirs? I don't know. What is this crazy expensive item going to be if it's not gonna be the legendaries, because they're soulbound? Are the uniques gonna be soulbound? I'm not exactly sure. I haven't looked at them, but I'm pretty sure the unique items are going to be soulbound if the legendaries are soulbound. So what are people going to want? What are people going to trade? And if people aren't going to be trading in Diablo 4, where's the social aspect of the Diablo MMO going to come from? Because it sure as fuck isn't going to come from doing events in the open world, doing the world boss with, what is it, 11 random people? Unless you do it with your mates. I don't know. I hate to be this nitpicky about an IP that I feel so strongly for, because I've been playing ARPGs, specifically Diablo, for many, many, many years now. And the beta is decent. The game is decent. It looks amazing. The combat is good. It's just that there are some issues with the game, like from the core of the game. It's built very deeply into the game that I worry about the longevity of the game. How long is it going to last? Is Diablo 4 going to be Diablo 3 all over again? I don't know. I'm simply worried. This turned out way more ranty than I had planned, but I just really needed to get this off of my chest. These are my thoughts, my opinions. You don't have to agree with them. I don't really care. Put it in the comments. I'm probably going to read it. I'm just a bitter old Diablo gamer that's worried about the game's future. And the game isn't even out yet. We're just gonna have to wait and see. Hope for the best. There's tons and tons and tons of feedback out there. I've watched so much content on Diablo 4. I agree with most of it. The game has issues that needs to be addressed. We don't know how early this beta is compared to how far they are in the development process now. We could be totally off with many of these things. They could be like miles ahead of what we're doing right now. And I sure as fuck hope so. But yeah, there you have it. These are my thoughts, my opinions. Do you agree? Do you not agree? We'll see what becomes of everything. Launch isn't that far away, which is both exciting and scary. But if you made it all the way to the end, I salute you. I really do. Thanks for listening. Later, nerds.